welcome to our presentation. We're going to be teaching you guys about some basics of Canva and how you can use it within your classroom. So our objectives today for our training are that today we will explore tools within Canva that teachers and students can use to enrich everyday learning. And also today we will gather and create resources within Canva that we can use in our own classrooms. We are able to connect this presentation with the Creative Communicator ISTE standard, and you can read all about what that standard is there. But overall, students communicate clearly and express themselves creatively for a variety of purposes using the platforms, tools, styles, formats, and digital media appropriate for their goals. So we liked this one because there are much different tools and styles, and it allows students to pick how they represent their work.
My name is Paloma Monroy, and I am a sixth-year teacher over at Cottonwood Elementary. I started as a first and second grade teacher over there, and now am the Ventana teacher for K2. I started getting involved in the technology side of things during COVID when I was providing tech help to our campus.
I'm Nicole Hoffman. I'm the STC at Cottonwood. This is my third year as being the STC over here. I taught for 5 years before that, and I have my master's in educational technology.
All right, so this slide is an example of the anticipatory set we had for this presentation. We had this embedded into our presentation as another slide. It's called a whiteboard. And what we had the participants do is click on their own Post-it note on the screen and type in their response to the question, how comfortable they felt using Canva. And then after everybody finished, we could kind of gauge the room and see what the comfort level across the board was.
So on the last slide, you saw an example of a whiteboard. A lot of these whiteboards are already made within Canva if you search whiteboards. Also, throughout our presentation, you'll see a bunch of hyperlinks. For example, right there, it says more about whiteboards. And if you click on it, not only will it tell you about some more whiteboards, but it will also show you some already created whiteboards. So we've used them in the form of check-in, check-out sheets, KWL charts. We also have done it for like SEL, checking in how kids are feeling that day. Maybe you can use it for your attendance that day as well. Also embedded within the whiteboards are timers that if you, as the teacher, click on, the students will be able to see throughout.
One way that a lot of people get comfortable using Canva is through starting out by making some flyers or class slides, newsletters, those types of things in Canva. There's a lot of templates in Canva if you search those different headings. An example on the screen is a flyer we use at our campus, and you'll notice that there's a QR code on the form. We will show you later in the presentation how to create those QR codes directly through Canva.
One of the things we like most about using Canva is the fact that there are a lot of student-led projects built within Canva that you can do. When your student is first going into Canva, all students already have an account through Google. They just hit sign in with Google, and all of their presentations and projects will be located there. Teachers are able to leave feedback. If you go to the presentations, you will see that little speech bubble with the plus sign. Once you click that, you can leave a comment, and then your student will be able to see it. Additionally, you can do voiceovers within the presentation. For example, right now, if we turned the video off, it would just be a voiceover. Some examples of some things that we're going to be going through, some different student-led projects, are book trailers. You can do monthly or weekly updates, comic strips, storyboards, book covers, magazine covers, and videos, just like this video. And as you can see, a lot of these are underlined, so you can click on them to see more examples, but we'll also be showing you some within the presentation as well.
One of the examples of a student-led project that Nicole mentioned was comic strips. So on the screen, you'll see an example template that we found just through searching comic strip on Canva. There were lots of different templates on there, so you can go ahead and pick which one will fit for what you need. Again, you'll see more about comic strips and explore comic strips here are underlined. So if you click on those, it'll take you to those screens. One thing that's cool about the comic strips is students can create their own little Bitmoji character like the clip art you see on the screen here. So they can personalize it to make it look like them or make different characters throughout their comic strips. And we will show you that later on in the presentation, how to access that to make it more personalized for your students.
Canva also has storybooks that are already created for you. So you could use this during a lit study or when you're teaching your students about plot. It's another way, like for younger students, to be able to use Canva. You can print these out and the students can create their own story within it. Usually it's just pictures without text, but you can delete the text if there is some. And you can also use those Bitmoji type characters within the storybooks as well. Additionally, you could also, instead of having kids write their stories down, you could have them record themselves telling that part of the story. That was a voiceover versus having them type, especially for our younger kids. That might be really great.
Another feature within Canva is called choice boards. Again, on this slide, you'll see the two links that you can click on to find some already made templates and learn more about it. But choice boards are a good way to give students some choices within the classroom, that you're okay with all the options, but they get to feel a sense of choice. These are good for enrichments after an activity, an end of lit study project, centers, lots of good ways you could use them in your classroom. It allows the students to communicate in a creative way, it enriches their learning, and gives them other tools um, besides the technology that they get to choose for themselves.
We also use Canva for check ins. A lot of times we use these at the beginning or checkouts at the end of a lesson or the school day. Again, we had mentioned earlier, this is a great way to like take attendance or do some SEL in your classroom. Again, a lot of these are already created for you, so you could put them straight onto Schoology or have them log in with their Google accounts. I'll explain that a little bit more later.
On Canva, there is also a lot of different note taking templates. These you can have your children do electronically if they have Chromebooks or tablets, or you could still print them out and do paper and pencil type of note takers with these. These are good for guided notes, graphic organizers, all kinds of things. On the screen here, you'll see three examples that we just pulled up from the templates on Canva. A good one is the main idea map that we have. This was already created on Canva. Main idea is a standard that a lot of different grade levels teach. So this was a nice one that we could just pull. All of these templates also are editable. So if you like the general layout of it, but you want to change the wording in a couple of the boxes, you are totally able to do that. And then we also have some examples of note takers for some of those older grades. This history one, if you open it up, it is actually like a whole electronic notebook that students can keep all their notes for that subject in.
Canva also has many worksheets that you can choose from. The great thing about these is they're free. I know I'm constantly creating worksheets, so it's nice when it's free for me. And what I really like about Canva's worksheets are, as we mentioned earlier, they're editable. So, for example, this equivalent fractions worksheet that you see here, I could easily go in and change the numbers on there if those numbers didn't work or I wanted to make it harder or more enriching, or I just need the same worksheet again for more practice but want to change up the numbers. I did something like that for a mass capacity worksheet that I found on Canva and then switched it over to for mass to capacity. Something that's also really cool about Canva is just recently, within like the last week of me recording this, Canva also released more classroom education side of Canva. So when you're on the main screen, you'll see Canva for education, and it will literally break down by grade level and by subjects and by content, all different things. And you can click through, and you're going to not only see worksheets, but you're going to see already created presentations as well. And again, that was just made within like the last week of this. One thing to know about Canva is Canva was started by educators, so they really want educators to succeed. It's kind of a marketing tool now, but really Canva's home was with education. So you're going to see a lot more education materials being added into there.
A feature of Canva that we are currently using is recording ourselves. There are two different ways that you can access this feature. The first way is over on the left side of the screen in that sidebar. You'll click Upload and then record yourself. The other way is when you go to hit present, you'll see a picture like what's on the right side of the screen, and you can do present and record from there. A cool piece about this is when you record directly through Canva, you can record slide by slide. So if you accidentally mess up or you forget to say something, you can go back to just that slide rather than having to record the whole presentation over again.
Canva can also be integrated directly into our LMS. Our learning management system is Schoology. So, one way that you can do that is when you're adding a material, one of the options is Canva for Education. When you insert that, your students will be able to work on that same document that you embedded it into the document. This is not the way that forces them to make their own copy. This would be everyone working on the exact same document. So, for example, you might do this when you are doing a whiteboard and you want every single kid's hand to be in that same exact document. If you did want, so once you hit Canva for Education, you'll see this second screen pop up that's on the right hand side. And you'll have to log in using your Google OSS the very first time that you use this. From then on, it should say remember your information, and you're going to see all the presentations or projects that you've made, and then you should be able to directly insert them. On the next slide, I'll show you an example of when I directly inserted a project into Schoology for some younger students as well. If you want to have their kids be forced their own copy, you could just go into Canva, and when you share, there's a button that says use as template link, and that forces a copy for everyone who uses it. But there's another way, and then your students would have to share that presentation or project with you. There's another way to do this as well. Your students can also log into Canva using their Google as well. They have a free account. So once you do that, then you can create a class inside of Canva. On that home screen, it will say like create class or something along those lines, and there will be a code or a link that you can give your students that will automatically put them into your class. Then that way, the projects that they're creating will automatically be there instead of them having to share them with you. As I mentioned on the last slide, this is a project that I used in my kinder through second grade classrooms pages. And once I embedded it into Canva, just like I showed you on the last slide, the kids were able to see this little tablet. And this tablet on the left-hand side is functional, so you could copy this exact one into your own Canva presentation and use it for yourself if you like this. I actually stole it from Rita Boyd from Desert Willow. Um, so when my students go to their teachers' pages, they'll see this tablet right here, and then they can click on the different buttons and go to those web pages. This is just an easier way for students to be able to get to these websites quickly because, kinder first, maybe second graders might not be able to read them so easily. So, yeah. The sidebar when you are not in presentation mode, when you're in edit mode, is incredibly helpful, and we really hope you take some time to explore it. But we want to point out a few things that you're going to see when you are using the sidebar. For example, if you look towards the bottom, maybe towards the middle of the sidebar, you're going to see a button that says apps. And within these apps, you're going to find apps to create QR codes, like we had mentioned earlier. You just search QR and it will pop up. And then also our little characters that you saw at the beginning of the presentation, and you'll see them again at the end of the presentation that Paloma and I created of ourselves. It's like called Memoji. And you will also find that in there as well. I've also found photo editing tools. I've found video editing tools. That's where I find music. Um, Also in Veil, something that's really cool that I love to use as an STC. I'm constantly creating flyers. So I find this incredibly helpful is the logo section. And in the logo section, once you click on that, you're going to find a list of all of the schools. So for example, I would click Cottonwood and I see a little picture of Comet come up, and I can just click on that and automatically embed it into my presentation. Also, you'll notice if you have that logos, when you're creating text or doing a background or changing the color of something, you can pick your school and you'll see your school's colors. So when I'm creating a background or something and I'm changing the colors, I'll see blues, gray, white, because those are Cottonwood's colors. And those are really helpful to me, especially creating some personal branding for Cottonwood. We want to keep it pretty, keep it the same. So it's really, really helpful for me. So please explore that as well. Also, you'll see on the side, there's one of the new features they added in about last year is draw. So you can draw directly onto the Canva project, or your students can also draw onto the Canva project as well. This might be helpful if you're doing things with illustrations and want to give them a little bit more creativity when doing their presentations or project. Um, Also, this one is kind of hard to explain. Hopefully, you can find it. Our contact information is available at the end, so you can also email us too if you are unable to make this work. When you have an image in your presentation, so for example, this little girl raising her hand, I can right click onto her and you're going to see an option that says more like this or view collection. And when that happens, I'm going to see more images or like clip art essentially that matches the ones that I've already added. So you can see we have a bunch of different clip art throughout this whole entire presentation, and we're able to find a lot of them by using one of those two options, and that's super helpful. So you can get to that by right clicking, or you can also get to it by clicking on it, and towards the top of your screen, you're going to see a bar, and it will also give you those options as well. You can also, by clicking on a lot of the clip art, change the colors of them as well. So I can, if I wanted to make her shirt cottonwood blue, I could click on her and change the color as well, and that's super helpful. This has been our most popular slide of the presentation thus far when we presented, so I really hope you learned something interesting from this slide as well. Um, In your Canva presentations or projects, you can add notes. I currently, as I'm recording this, can see my notes on the left-hand side. When you're on the edit screen, on the left-hand side, one of the options that you can click on is notes, and when you type in that, then you'll, when you're presenting, you'll be able to see your notes, and that's incredibly helpful. We'd also mentioned earlier that you can insert comments into your presentations as well. If you'd like to learn more about how to do that, you can click on the link that is in the presentation. Also, at the top right hand corner, when you're editing a presentation, you can resize the presentation. I know this is incredibly helpful for me because I'm often posting to Facebook, our school website, to Schoology, all these different things, and they all require different sizes. So it's really nice to just be able to resize that exact same presentation. And Canva already has the size specifications saved in there. So I don't need to think to myself, oh, how big should a Facebook post be? I can already do that. And that's been incredibly helpful and as well. Something else that, if you're new to Canva, you might not have used before is the ability to bring objects to the front or send them to the back. So, for example, we have our little clip art here. If I inserted her, she might go behind that white box. We don't want that. So I would right click on her and put bring to front. There, if I want the white box, if it was on top of the clip art, I could click on that and hit send to back. That way it's in the correct order that you want. You can also do that with text as well. There's also an option when you right click and you go into the layers, it says show all layers, and you can actually drag and drop where you want each thing layered. And that has been incredibly helpful to see, okay, why is this looking like it's behind something? Yeah. Something else new and cool that Canva has now added in is Canva Assistant. If you look to the bottom right-ish of your screen, you see those like little sparkly looking things. And that will come up when you click on either text or an image. And when you click on that, it's going to give you a few options. It's going to kind of, it will potentially bring up like the view collection that I mentioned on the other slide, or things like that. Or it might give you some suggestions of like, if I'm putting one font, another font that might match it, or a background that might match it, so it looks aesthetically pleasing. This is also the place where you can use AI to summarize text as well. Within like the last, again, week, Canva has another cool new feature where you can make your text funny, you can summarize it, you can make it more formal, you can I saw one where you can take the project and make it into a poem. And at first I was like, is that really useful? But then I thought, yeah, it totally is, because one of the standards that the older grades are teaching is comparing stories and poems and things like that. And how cool would it be to take a story that you had and have Canva create it into a poem so the students can compare and contrast the poem versus the story. I think that's so cool. And that's right. Instead of you having to create that, Canva will do it for you. Canva is currently integrating a lot of different AI tools, and it's not perfect, of course, but it's constantly evolving, and I've seen some really cool things with it. So I definitely suggest taking a look at that within Magic Edit. That was really cool. And there's also the ability now through AI to have Canva, you just tell Canva, like, oh, I want a presentation on this and I want it to look like this, and Canva will create it for you. And that's really cool. Um, yeah, sorry, a little bit of a tangent there, but AI is really changing Canva and making it really interactive and cool. You can edit photos. So you can click on the photo and you're going to have a few different options. So, say I don't want a background. One of the options you're going to have is background remover, and that's really, really helpful. I use that one a lot. Um, yeah, and that link there will show you more about how to edit photos and change the color, remove backgrounds, add filters if you want, and all sorts of cool stuff. Something that I just like and might be helpful to the type A's like me is Canva also has a color wheel and a color palette generator. Just makes everything look more aesthetically pleasing. Take a look at those links when you have a chance. It just helps with color theory and all that cool stuff. Maybe my art teachers out there will really like that. Canva is also a PDF editor. You can upload um, Google Docs, PDFs, Google Slides, images, all these things to Canva, and Canva will make them editable for you, which is really convenient. Um, yeah, I know I've taken a few of my Google presentations and put them straight into here, and the fonts sometimes get a little messed up, but you can change it and make it look how you want. And then you can also take those Canva presentations and put them back into Google if you want to save them into your Google Drive as well. Yeah, and I really like that it's PDF editor, because I know that I often try, like, Adobe costs money. I don't want to have to do that. Something that I think about Canva is Canva's trying to come for all the other platforms' jobs. They are trying to get rid of Photoshop. They're trying to get rid of Adobe, like all Google Slides, Microsoft. They're trying to make it all in one place, and they're really doing a great job of it. So if you need to create a presentation, you can do that. If you need to make a document, you can do it. If you can make a flyer, edit photos, all these really cool things, you can do all of it within Canva. Magic Edit is another really cool feature that can be kind of wonky at times, but is incredibly cool and helpful. But essentially, you can take a photo and remove things that maybe you don't want in the background of the photo, or say they had an example of like a hand holding a rose. They're like, oh, I actually want it to be a daisy. So you can like erase the rose and then type in add in a daisy, and then a daisy will appear in the photo, and that is so cool. Again, it's not always perfect and it does take a little bit of time, but I really strongly encourage you to play with it because it's really cool. So, yeah, I hope you learned something from those tips and tricks. Something I forgot to also mention on the last slide was Canva also allows you to embed YouTube videos straight into it as well. Um, and another thing I totally forgot about is Canva. You can also do timers and a bunch of other really cool things that I would love for you to explore. So when you're presenting and you're showing your presentation to someone, if you hit the numbers 1 through 9, it will bring up a timer for that amount that you clicked on. Also, if you hit the C, it will bring up a curtain that will come up like to end the presentation. I think the M, it has a hand and then a microphone drops. And then if you hit the A on your keyboard, there's an applause. If you hit B, it will blur out the whole screen for when you're presenting. So Canva just has a lot of really cool different tricks that it's hard to know about all of them. So I'm sure you probably know some really cool tricks as well. And yeah, I hope you learned something new. Thanks. When Paloma and I presented in person, this was the closure that we used for our participants. And so we wanted to leave it in here because it is an example of a KWL chart that you could use in your own classroom. You could keep it in a Canva presentation, or you could also print it out. One way to have students use this is maybe you create a bunch of different slides and each student is assigned their own slide. So then it's all in one place for you to be able to see it. Thank you so much for joining us for our presentation. If at any time you have any questions about our presentation or just Canva in general, please reach out to myself or Paloma. Our emails are listed below. And yeah, we hope we can help you out and we hope you learned something new. Have a great day. Bye.